Ronson, Bill?
Here.
And I am here.
Yesterday was St. Patrick's Day, sir.
No, but I was out late last
Yeah, right.
So I pulled out a bit for the meeting.
Good morning.
Next item is just public comments. Any public comments for this morning? Apparently not. 4, entry-level firefighter testing process. Ethan?
Good morning. So laid out the 2025 entry-level testing process, looking to kick that off mid-May, on May 15th for the application period, which would close on the 16th of June. We'd advertise like we normally do. We're required in the Reading Eagle. We would put it on the borough website, share it through our social media outlets, and post on Indeed.com. We'd have to fit in after the deadline civil service meeting so that we can certify the eligibility list and then move forward with those that are determined to be eligible to the written exam. The written exam will be hosted again at the Wyomissing High School in the cafeteria on Saturday, July 19th. We have 2 options for the written exam. Last year when we ran the entry-level testing, we used a company called Stenard & Associates out of Chicago. We had a self-graded exam, but it required me and one of my staff to be there to witness everything, just so that we had 2 people to make sure that nobody was cheating. So there's a cost incurred for the exam plus the time of people being on site to witness the exam. With the deputy chief's hiring process that we had going through, we had contracted with Bucks County Community College. They put together the test, they deliver it, proctor it, take it, grade it. Everything is confidential and very highly protected. I feel that that is the best way to go, but it incurs a cost of $600 to do the test.
Is there a degree of difficulty difference between the two?
So, yes, the one from Stenard & Associates is your basic test. So basic math aptitude test, reading comprehension, a retention test for a passage that is read to you, and you have to retain that information and then apply it to questions later on in the test. The Bucks County one would be tailored for what requirements we are asking for of the candidates. So your firefighter 1 and 2, EMT, vehicle rescue. So it's really more tailored towards the knowledge we want them to have when they come on board with us versus just a general understanding. It'll help speed up our process of onboarding and getting the candidate who is successful and hired, getting them up to speed with how we are.
To pass the second test, you need the skills of the first test.
So to pass the second test, they would already have that because they would have their national certifications for all the requirements we have in the job description. So on one day, they were well prepared and smart enough with the knowledge, skills, and abilities to pass that written exam, as well as the hands-on skills exam that goes with it.
How many entry-level firefighters are you looking for?
Looking to hire at least one.
At least one.
But currently I have no eligibility list to hire off. So in turn, this would also give us a list for up to 2 years.
Sounds
So
like
we might-
a small amount to pay for what that is.
Yeah, and I assume that 600 isn't in your budget, but is it somewhere that could be paid, or is it?
I would have to go back and look at the admin budget that I have and see if I can pull it out of the training and administrative side. But
Phyllis would tell you an amount that small is lost in the sauce.
but we'll.
I understand, I just wanted to make sure.
I appreciate that.
The roll is deeper.
We'll end up probably most likely contracting with Bucks again for the deputy chief's job because they did an excellent job.
Yeah, it sounds like a good
So
Glad you found out about it. That's
yeah,
great.
it's been very good. Learning a lot more of what they're capable to do at Bucks is really eye-opening and refreshing. So definitely happy with that. The after the written exam.
Oh, I want to
Yes,
say
sir.
one other thing before you go on. She Chief Phillips had great success getting applicants for the signage in the borough.
Yes.
Is that some avenue that you can use as well?
Yes, sir. I've been discussing that with Mr. McKinley about putting some signs together. And they won't be up for as long as what the police department's advertising was, because we have other borough events that we need to be posted as well, but we're looking at that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. So after the written exam, the candidates will be notified of their score. Bucks was able to turn around. We did the test on a Saturday. I had the scores on Monday morning for the deputy chief, so I would imagine it would be the same way here with this. I send out the scores to the candidates, whether they passed or failed, and then the next section would be the candidate physical agility testing. We're running our physical testing through the Lancaster County Consortium of Fire Departments. It's hosted by Lancaster City, and they do the full candidate physical agility testing. So it starts on August 5th. The last final CPAT testing date is September 29th, so we're looking at a 2-month period where they'll be bouncing back and forth at different days to be able to go through this. It is pass-fail. It's the candidate physical agility test is recognized by the International Association of Firefighters as well as the International Association of Fire Chiefs. It's pretty much the gold standard of how we assess and see if somebody is physically capable of doing the job. There was some discussion about accepting previous CPAT certificates. Across the board, the maximum people have been going for was 6 months. We extended that to 18 because we were in a crunch to get people. I am okay if the committee approves it, recognizes it to go to that 6-month time frame. So if somebody has completed a CPAT 6 months prior, within 6 months prior to our test, they're eligible to submit that. Don't have to go through the physical testing.
Makes sense, not longer unless you have that crisis.
Yes.
So does the test results really change that much? Or is it just your stuff that gets aids from memory?
Well,
Physical,
it's physical.
You can get out of shape.
in 6 months.
And most of the candidates that would have that certificate are testing in other places too. So it's kind of it's more of a courtesy to say, okay, you've gone through it, we're not going to push you through it again.
I get it.
Is that gonna hold up the process?
Well, we would,
In other words, do you want action today on that to go before council?
for doing the CPAT, it's not going to hold up the process because when we talked at the last Civil Service Commission meeting, they were on board with doing the CPAT versus any other kind of option out there.
Yeah, good. That pretty much is what I was leading up to.
We don't have it.
Yeah.
Take it.
No.
So all the candidates are already are.
Yes. Yeah. Our hiring process requires that you have a minimum set of certifications as a fireman.
Is there any reason we have to put this on fire and police?
If,
We just trying to figure out ways to move to council, if council move is necessary.
I don't know that you need to because council's already approved moving forward with the entry-level hiring process.
I just want to make
Yeah,
sure
we're
we're
just doing
all.
some modifications.
Okay, that's all I wanted to make sure was all.
After the physical would be the interviews, and this go around, we're gonna use department staff, to do the panel interviews. We'll have much more of a feel towards fit of the candidate in our environment versus somebody who's looking from the outside. That's gonna be really important, making sure we have the right candidate to work within our team versus somebody who just meets the requirements.
You're also empowering people in a lot of different ways, it's really
I appreciate that. After the interviews, we go back to civil service to certify the eligibility list with the intent to come to the November council meeting to have the list recognized and approved by council and potentially make that conditional offer. And this hiring would satisfy the requirements in the current CBA for meeting the 4 people by 2026 on average.
So let me ask a question.
Yes, sir.
With regard to the other items that we just went through,
Mhm.
are the individuals that are involved in the interviews, candidate panel interviews, are they involved in what took place previously to determine where they are?
So they'll be all kept in the loop. We have a couple current staff members that are certified CPAT proctors, so they'll be going down. We are required to send some staff down if we are testing. They also offer an opportunity there on Tuesday, August 5th, for additional staff members to learn the process and become proctors.
So our panel interviews are just other people,
Yes, sir.
and who would they be?
Right now, I'm leaning towards the 3 captains to do the interviews.
Yeah, the chief explained that to me. It's not a bad idea because when, you know, our captains, they get an idea, are they gonna fit within our mold and our practices and you know, there's, not only from a professional side, but there has to be also a personality side. This guy's gotta work together. And they have to be able to be part of the family, if you will.
Well, also, if they're part of selecting that person, we have to vote. I think the board does, if the person succeeding starts the grant.
So if we're looking for one
Yes.
person, the other people that go through the panel interviews, are they on the list
Yes.
of some sort?
Yes, so-
Prioritized, or does it have to go back and squeeze them again?
No, so after each of the steps, the written exam, you either pass or fail. If you pass, you move forward. If you fail, you're off our list. The physical agility, again, pass, fail. If they don't pass it, they're off of our list. So at that point with the interview panel, or the panel interviews side of that, if they're successful with meeting the 70% threshold of passing the interview, they'll go onto that eligibility list for civil service that'll be presented then at the November meeting for council.
If at each time they're being graded, where does the grade fit in? When you get to the part where you have a panel interview, and somebody says, this guy's a genius, but he's a nut. Are they weighted anywhere?
Yeah, so we weight the written and the panel interview. The written, and my memory's not the best here this morning, written, I believe, is 40% of of the score, and the panel interview is at 60% of their overall score. So again, to be able to get to that panel interview, you have to be able to pass the other steps.
Right, but when they get to the panel interview, those other scores are part of their deliberations with regard to who they think is the top guy.
Not necessarily. That goes to civil service.
Well, I meant-
Scores are added together,
Yeah,
they're independent.
same thing like the police department does, to certify the list. It's identical.
So if somebody got an 80% on, an 80 for their written exam and a 70 for their oral interview panel, and somebody else did the complete opposite, candidate A is going to be ranked higher than candidate B.
In the candidate.
After
Yeah.
After the interview.
After the
For the total
So what I'm
scores.
trying to figure out is
So-
how heavy is the weight that the 3 captains have with regard to the scores that were determined by the 5, 6, 4, P order?
60%.
Yeah, so it's roughly a 40-60 split between written and the interviews. Now, with three captains doing the interviews, the total points for the interview are added together, plus the total scores from the 3 captains are added together to get your average. And we have a standard list of 10 questions that they'll ask.
That's kind of subjective, but
Yeah.
you know,
So that's what we're looking for with the entry-level testing process, hopefully be wrapped up and ready to propose at the November council meeting.
Excellent. Any questions for the chief? We want to find deputy chief job description. I think we all got that.
Yes. So I won't go through everything all together here, but we had made some changes. I worked with Manager Bear here to identify some items that needed to be adjusted a little bit. We reviewed that and think that we've captured some things that were a little bit vague before. One of the key items that I'll point out is the educational component. Right there. So the previous edition did not specify having a GED or high school diploma as being required, so that was added in. And I've also made it a preferred to have a college degree, a bachelor's degree. I think that's important because not everybody is as driven to go get higher education versus the next person. And I think we should be open to somebody having excellent capabilities to fulfill this role that may not have went the route of going to college. Sometimes you can't put a price tag on that real world experience. So I really didn't want to limit ourselves. Cleaned up a couple other things in that section. Making sure that I specify knowledge and experience, not just experience, in all phases of fire protection work. And then the 10 years of responsible experience. We added in there recent and increasingly responsible experience because somebody could have had 20 years in the fire service, but has been out of it for several years and is not in tune with how things currently are. And then specified of having at least held the rank of a company officer or higher, that would demonstrate that they've had the opportunity to do some leadership, to lead certain groups in their current setting or their previous settings. One other item that we needed to clear out there was in that note. It specifies the 5th line down there. We need to add some punctuation there for candidates' specific work experience. We'll take care of that. And then I added for the last part there, the candidate pool available at the time of the position vacancy.
So let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Is there any thought in anyone's mind that we are reducing the educational requirement for police officers? Requiring or suggesting that we have college graduates for fire department, or whatever it is, it's the fire department.
It's the second highest position.
Do we have that requirement for the police department for a police officer that's going to be the
This is
second
not
highest?
a
Their hiring process is different.
I know that, we're talking about it's different.
We don't go to the outside looking for a lieutenant.
Well, I think that it had been, make sure I understand correctly what you said, Chief. Previously, college education had been required,
Right.
and we've now made it preferred, so it's no longer required. Is that, so we're no
Yes.
longer requiring the college degree for this.
If it's preferred, if that's the language.
Preferred.
That's what-
I mean, not here.
Yeah, I mean, that was
Not
the-
police department.
Well, we're talking about the fire department.
I'm talking about the police department.
I was
The police
talking about the fire department.
I'm comparing the two, suggesting, does anyone have a thought that if we're preferring that our fire guys, chief or otherwise, are college graduates, and we're not asking the police to do that, does that bring anything to anyone's mind, or don't they care?
Well, this seems appropriate for fire. If you want to turn your attention to the job description for the police department, that's a different meeting.
Well, I know that, but that's a different meeting, because now we have a meeting now that says we want to have these people as college graduates. That's why we need a different meeting again.
No,
to
we're
talk
saying
about
it's
the police department.
preferred, it's no longer required. You got it backwards.
Forget it. That was my question, my comment.
Okay. We're gonna need a motion to approve the revisions to the deputy fire chief job description.
So moved.
Second. Any further questions on the motion? Hearing none. Everyone in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Ayes have it, unanimous.
That's all I have. Thank you very much for the time.
Thanks,
Thank you.
thanks for your.
Good job.
Number 6 is a request to amend post-retirement benefits. I believe the explanation on the agenda is more than sufficient. It should be known that the provision that they want to have added was added to this last CBA that Mr. Brewer and I negotiated with the fire,
Please.
with the police department. And it seems like it's rather minimal in nature, and it has a couple of kickers in there so that the expense will not be insane, and it's only an increase of $250. So.
Also the principal. I mean,
Yeah, they should
be
have-
worse off than
Correct.
people recommending.
Correct.
I would also add that, both Chief Phillips and Lieutenant Bauer's contracts, for the most part, are an identical mirror of other language in the CBA, intentionally,
They probably,
yes.
and we should make note when we do this again, to bring theirs into compliance.
I actually asked if there was a thought put towards adding language to both contracts in some capacity, that as the collective bargaining agreement is updated from time to time, the language will automatically update in the chief and lieutenant's contract. Lieutenant Bauer wanted to talk to FOP attorney Chris Murphy about that, who was on vacation. So there was not time to get a response in time for this meeting, but something potentially for future discussion. And I don't know if there's an unintended consequence to that as well, which was my point to the lieutenant.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with that automatic change, because I think it affects, I would like our chief and lieutenant to not be motivated and I don't know what to say exactly, but I would prefer that they are not automatically timed.
Understood.
But we could calendar it so that we
Yes.
look at
Yeah,
it.
and I think there can be softer language in there too, indicating that the changes that should be reviewed, and the chief and lieutenant should be reviewed in accordance with any changes made in the CBA.
I mean, that's
Okay, that's fine.
appropriate, that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
I just don't like automatic stuff, because then we have to reduce it to writing anyway, so.
What are your suggestions?
Okay,
Do you need a motion?
we do. We need a motion to recommend to council to approve revising paragraph number 5, the employment contract for Chief Phillips. And the employment contract for Lieutenant Bauer to increase the post-retirement medical benefit provided by the employer from $750 to $1,000 per month.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Ayes have it, unanimous. Excellent. Item 7 is executive session. Is there any need for executive session?
There is none.
Beautiful. Meeting is adjourned by acclamation.
Thank you.